Husband, father, body coach, PE teacher to the nation. What people might not know about you, Joe Wicks, is that actually you're motors mad, especially when it comes to bikes. And this is actually something quite new, isn't it, for you?
I am a proper latecomer to this party, right? I mean, I literally turned 35, I had a kid, and I was like, right, I'm going to get a motorbike license. And everyone says to me, no, when you get married and have a kid, you're not supposed to go out on motorbikes. They're dangerous, but I love it. I've really got into it. I mean, I'm like, it's my pastime. I find it quite relaxing. So when I'm stressed out, I just jump on one of my bikes, go for a little cruise, maybe down to Brighton or up to the Cotswolds or something for a few hours. And I love it. So yeah, I'm late to the game, and I think I'm going to be a petrolhead forever now. I really do.
I love that. There's no time which is wrong to get into motorsport, to get into biking, to get into that headspace, as you say, and it's so different. So the first question I want to ask you is bikes. What have you got? Because people will be fascinated.
My journey into motorbikes began at a Triumph opening of a new Triumph shop in London. So I was invited along. This is just as I was sort of getting my license, and I met this guy called Jody there, who he's got a brand called Thornton 100 Motorcycles, and he customizes like Triumph bobbers and scramblers and whatnot. So the first bike I went for, and I literally just completed my motorbike test on a 250 or whatever it is, and I ended up getting a 1200cc supercharged Triumph bobber. So it's super powerful, like it's amazing, and I love that. That's my first love. That's the one I always go to. And as time went on, you get the itch and you think, I need another one. And I never thought I was going to be a collector, but what it is, I've realised I love going on my bike, but I really love doing it with friends. So my dad's got his license, my little brother got his license, and my father-in-law. So I ended up sort of getting a few extra bikes, and they're all insured on them, so we all go out together. So bike number one was a supercharged bobber. Bike number two, I got a T120, so a Triumph T120 with a wide wheel kit, which is again from Jody. And then the third one was the Triumph Scrambler 1200. Because we all went to Scotland on this amazing thing called the Highland Scramble. So I said, look, we've got to get a scrambler so we can have a little jump between the bikes. And then the last one I've got, the most recent one, is a Ducati Street Fighter V4S, which is so unbelievably fast. It's a beast. I mean, I don't know if you've ever ridden it, but it's amazing to ride. It's a crazy bike.
How easy then did you find doing your bike test, if I take you back to the very beginning? Because some people find it super easy and other people really struggle to get into the hole. You've got to look where you're going, not look at the wheel.
Well, I was nervous to do it, obviously. I've only ever done like dirt biking as a kid. I remember when I was about 10, my dad and mum got me a Pee Wee 50, a little Yamaha. It's red and white. I never forget it because we had it for so many years. And it lasted forever. We literally used to ride it around the parks and stuff. So I had a Pee Wee 50, so I understood like I could ride a bike. But when I got to the test, obviously the first test, the CBT, pretty easy. But that level 2, when you've got to do the in and out of the cones and the figure of 8, I mean, I really thought I wasn't going to get through it. But luckily I passed on the first time, which is good, because as soon as I did that, I was like, right, straight on the phone to Triumph. Right, I need a bike. And I was loaning bikes. So as soon as I passed, the first bike I actually got loaned was a Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer, the blue and silver one, which was really nice. Then I tried a couple of Harleys. Then I tried a Triumph sort of street triple, and no, not a street triple, Triumph speed twin and a bobber. And I just fell in love with the bobber. I just like the style and the ride and the position. But yeah, I actually I love it. And now I've even started getting into the off road, and so I've got a couple of I haven't mentioned the KTM's. I just bought 2 KTM's as well.
You have a fair collection, yeah.
Lucky I've got a big garage. So I've got 4 road bikes and 2 KTM's because, again, they lend me. They say, have a little go on these. What do you think of them? And I went out for a couple of weeks, and I was like, I need these bikes. They're 250cc enduro bikes. And we went all through Surrey, like Dorking and the green lanes and all that sort of stuff. And it's so much fun. So I kind of love the road riding, but I think my new hobby now is going to be the off-road type stuff.
You live in a nice part of the world now. You're going to end up digging up gardens and making your own track in the back garden.
I'd love to do that. Yeah, proper go for it, like crash, destruction derby type place.
Tell me about the headspace that it gives you, though, because you're all into your mental health at the moment. It's such a key kind of buzzword. And actually getting on a bike, certainly I found in the past, it's a wonderful place to be.
I think if you know the feeling, you just know it and you can completely understand where I'm coming from. But for me, someone on social media who's so plugged into the mainframe, I'm just in that algorithm all the time. When I'm on my motorbike, I'm completely detached from that. I'm not on my phone. I'm really present, and you've just got to focus on the road. And for me, I just love, finding a new road. I don't care where I'm going. I just sometimes get lost, but I just love new roads. It's visual, going through forests and over the Surrey Hills and stuff. It's like, it really calms me down. It really brings me to the moment. I think you've got to be alert and sharp. You've got to be focused on the road. So for me, it's almost kind of meditation in a way. Whereas I think with driving, sometimes you can sort of plod along in cruise control without really thinking, how did I just get home? Like, I don't know how I got here. But on a motorbike, you absorb every single, curve of the road, every single bit of gravel. You're just constantly thinking about keeping safe. And I love that escape, that kind of escape from reality in a way. So yeah, that for me, even if I go out for half an hour, I feel great. But I do love a proper 4 or 5 hour day out where I go to the beach, have a bit of lunch, cruise back. And when I come back in the house, I feel so calm and relaxed, and I just feel like I've had a really wonderful day.
I don't know how you fit in everything that you do. Your days are jam-packed. Are you generally really happy with life at the moment? You've got obviously 2 kids, wife, business, which is ever expanding, all sorts of different parts to it, and then a new love affair with bikes.
Well, it looks like I'm, someone that is always moving, and I am very busy, and I love being productive because what I do has such impact, doesn't it? My YouTube workouts help millions a month, and my app and my body coach, recipes on Instagram, it all helps people. So I'm drawn back to that because I know how much impact it has. But I do have a good balance. So I am able to, disconnect from my phone and have those days with the kids. We went to the park, went to Virginia Water yesterday, and we leave our phones in the car. We spend a couple of hours in the park. So I'm good at blocking out time. And even during evening now, I leave my phone between the sort of hours of 5 and 8 p.m. It's like dinner time. We cook, we eat, we go in the garden, we do story time and bath time. So I'm good at prioritizing that time. But Rosie also knows that when I love going out on my motorbike, it really is a thing that I love doing on my own, but also with my brothers and my dad. So we kind of have a family day out where we'll ride somewhere together. We get some lunch and we come back and we just jump, because we're all insured on the bikes. We can switch between bikes. So I love that, because I might get bored on the bob and my arse get a bit sore and I go, right, I'm going to get on the Street Fighter. So it's good going out as a gang. And it's a community thing, isn't it? It's fun to be a part of that. And when you meet other bikers, everyone's always friendly. I think you have this image of bikers being really quiet and being not so friendly. But every time I stop anywhere, people are like, "Oh, I love your bike, dude," and get into chats about things. And I quite like that element. So I go to Rikers and Box Hill, and I go to Newlands Corner, there's a cafe up there. So you get to meet other people, and I love that part of it.
Obviously, the relationship that you have with your family, your father in particular, and your brother, is kind of essential to that motorbiking journey that you're on. So take me to Scotland with you, because you did that journey with them, and that must have been a very special time in your life.
Well, my dad's always been someone who's fantasized about having a Harley, having a bike. He never got his test. He just never pulled his finger out and did it. And obviously when I did it, I kind of motivated him he booked his test, he got it done. And I said, look, we've got to go on this Highland Scramble. It's like the North Coast 500, this beautiful trip from Edinburgh right up to John O'Groats, and it's amazing. It's a really beautiful place to ride. So literally 2 days before we were booked to go, me and my brother George already had licenses. 2 days before, my dad's doing his test, and if he failed it, he was out of this trip. So he was under so much pressure to pass this test. Luckily he did, and we just had the most incredible 5-day trip. It was me, my dad and George, my father-in-law and Rosie's father, and about 10 friends, and we camped along the way. It was a proper epic adventure. And me and my dad and brother, we have times where we're not as close, but we really came together on that, and we really rebonded and reconnected, because we all just understand that we're out there having fun, and sometimes you're talking in a camp, and the rest of the day you're on your own in your own headspace. So it was a really good way of us being together in a nice way that really kind of brought us together, I think.
I mean, you speak quite often about your father and the relationship that he had, the struggles that he's had with quite hardcore drugs. Biking is one of those things, I think, that actually can really bring you together, as you said. Has he found that useful as a tool?
I've been really honest about my childhood and my upbringing. My dad, suffered with drug addiction, heroin. It's a tough drug. It really pulls you back and it stops you doing the things you love. And so there were times when he wasn't always there. But now what I've realized is our friendship. We're so strong now because of the experiences we've been through together. So we communicate a lot more now. And on those days we go out for rides together. Sometimes we go out as a gang, sometimes just me and my dad, or me and George. But I know he gets the same buzz. So I've got the garage here, so I store them at my house. And he'll ride over, and it's so funny because he's got a really old banged up 125cc moped, because he was going to learn to do the knowledge to be a black cabbie a few years back, and he didn't manage to finish it. But he rides over on this piddly little 125, and then he takes one of the bobbers out, or the supercharged the bobber, or the Street Fighter, and he comes back, and it's like I can see how much it helps him as well. it really does affect your mental health. I know it seems quite abstract if you're not someone who's ridden, but it's really mindful. I think it's really calming to do that. And, we're not out thrashing it. I'm not someone who likes to go really, really fast, but I do love 0 to 60. I like the acceleration. I like going 0 to 60, but I'm not someone who's hammering it and, caning on the motorway. I actually prefer more cruisy kind of ride. And that's why I love the bobber, I think.
Now, bizarrely, for your love of motorsport, you've not had the chance yet to go to Silverstone. Is that right?
I haven't visited Silverstone or any of the major racetracks in the UK. I actually did one track day with the California Superbike School. I think it was at a place called Bedford Autodrome. So it was fun. It was a great day out, but it was just obviously on 2 wheels. But I'm always getting invited to Formula One. I've been invited to the GP, but I've never found the time. But I'll be honest with you, I've just started watching Drive to Survive. I haven't seen the first 2 seasons, but I watched season 3 and I was enthralled. Like, honestly, I think it's such a great bit of content, some of the best TV, because the way they tell those stories and relationships and, the frustration and tension between drivers within the team, like, I loved it. So now, if I get offered, if anyone out there wants to invite me to a Grand Prix, even at, Brands Hatch or Silverstone, I am there 100%.
Well, I'm sure that the guys at Silverstone can make that happen. I think track days, you've obviously done some, but a track day at Silverstone, that's a pretty special thing. I've not done it on a bike, but it kind of blows your mind that you're able to actually just get a bike and take it onto a track that professional, proper racing, races are able to tackle. It's bonkers.
And what is it like as a track? Because obviously I don't know the ins and outs, but is it considered the best or most challenging track in the UK, would you say?
So it's really interesting because there's a split of opinion when it comes to bikers about what the best track is. Traditionally, Donington was the home of bike racing, and Donington's a fabulous circuit. But then Silverstone made some fiddly bits, changed the circuit, and it became the home of Formula One and MotoGP. So now you get these weekends in British Motorsport that are just flag bearers. They're amazing. The crowds are fantastic at Silverstone. They really back it. They're really knowledgeable. So it's a great track to go around. It's fast, it's flowing. You've got corners like Maggots, Beckett's and Copse, which just, you see a car through it, it's impressive. You see a bike and a whole gang of bikes go through it. You're just like, is that even possible? They just, it's mind-blowing when you see it, Joe.
So I've got a question for you, because I've been to football matches and tennis matches, and I always come away thinking, do you know what, I prefer watching it on TV sometimes because you get the replays and the angles. Being at a Formula One race or a GP race, do you still love the experience? They're flying by at 200 miles an hour. So describe it as an experience for a first time, because I could sort of think it's going to be loud and noise, you're not going to see a lot, you're better off watching on TV. But is that the wrong kind of impression, do you think?
I think so, because when you're at home, it's a great experience, especially if you're listening to the radio with us on it. But it's only one kind of stimulus. You're only given one sense, which is your eyes and your ears, maybe. So 2 senses then. When you actually go to a racetrack, you get the smell. You get the vibrations of the ground shaking underneath your feet as the cars or bikes come towards you. You get people cooking barbecues and that kind of dirty onions and burger smell that you love. And you've got the rest of the crowd there as well. And as one, you kind of unite behind the sport, which is just something you would never get at home.
You had me at burgers, I'm there. I love a burger. Now, it sounds amazing. Like you said, now I've seen the ins and outs. I've never really I've watched bits of Formula One races here and there, but now I've watched that show. I smashed out the 10 episodes in 3 days. I'm now following. So it's amazing how you can be introduced to a sport through a bit of content on TV, and suddenly now I'm thinking, right, I want to go to a Formula One race. So I think it's really great that you're using different platforms to encourage different audiences to come and enjoy motorsport, because it's not just for guys. It's not just for people that are driving and racing. It's about, people that just love the teamwork. And also I love the championship, around the building and the construction. I think it's really lovely that they also get rewarded for their hard work and their ingenuity, because what they do with them cars, the downforce and how they get around them corners, it's mind-blowing. I always see it as like an aeroplane that's stuck to the floor. It's like driving everything down. So I love that, the drivers are kind of rewarded, but also the teams for constructing the amazing cars as well.
Presumably, if you're relatively new to motorsport, you haven't picked someone to support yet. Or have you? Have you got some sort of little romantic connection.
So if I go back to the first ever experience of my head in GP, my uncle used to love GP. I'm talking in like the 90s. So I always remember him say, Fogarty! And it was like Carl Fogarty. And we'd be in the living room, like he'd be throwing me side to side, like watching Carl Fogarty. But I have actually met Cal Crutchlow, but I don't think he's riding anymore. Is he still in the GP?
No, disappointingly, this year we don't have a British rider in GP, which is really, really.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's kind of like at the end of an era in a way, but we've got more up and coming, so they'll get there. But at the moment, yeah, it's a shame that Silverstone and the crowd won't have a homegrown talent.
So I met Cal Crutchlow through Mark Cavendish. I was out there cycling with them. They're good friends, and he's an amazing cyclist. Cal Crutchlow is a beast on the bike, like seriously. So yeah, I would have supported him, but obviously the name that comes to head is Valentino Rossi because he's been around forever. And I was looking at the GP website at the age of the riders, and he's like double their age, and he's still going. Is he still the top boy in the sport? Is he still winning?
He's not, disappointingly. He's still there and he's still doing a great job. We're going to hear from him a little bit. But yeah, I think it's hard on the body. And I was going to ask you about that because obviously the older you get, the more difficult it is to get your body into condition and to keep it going. If you look at someone like Valentino Rossi or Lewis Hamilton, both of them are going towards, the wrong end of the dial, you could say. You want to be young and 15, 16-year-olds coming through that have got all the fitness in the world. How do you try and get your body in peak physical condition, even when you're getting that little bit older?
Well, I was amazed by the average age of even the Formula One riders. When I met Lando Norris and Carlos, I was like, there, because I went to the unveiling of the new McLaren a couple of years ago, and I met them and like Lando was 19. And I just couldn't believe that someone like literally starts just riding go-karts, probably for a bit of fun. And then a few years later, he's like part of a massive team riding, 200-mile-an-hour Formula One cars. So I'm amazed by their courage and the kind of skill they've got at such a young age. Because you think they would peak at an older age, but I think they're all training amazing. I've seen some of the training they do with the neck stuff and, watching the Drive to Survive. You can see that they're all doing their own thing. I think Lando, does a lot of boxing. He enjoys that sort of stuff. And then obviously Daniel Ricciardo also likes pad work and cardio fitness. But you've just got to be on top of your game, haven't you? You've got to be like the fittest one out there. You need to be sharp, psychologically prepared and alert and know the maps. But not the maps. That sounds like a Call of Duty game. Know the tracks and the routes. But you need to be physically strong, so you've got the advantage because the G-force their bodies go through and the physical endurance you need to be in a race and be in it till the end is incredible. But I mean, I'm sure they've got amazing coaches. I'm not really a proper endurance athlete coach, but I imagine they've got the best trainers in the world at that level looking after them.
I was going to ask you, when it comes to pro sport, what would you have done if you were going to go into sport and be a professional sports person? What would it have been for you?
I think looking back, I really loved football as a kid. I was never that talented, but I worked hard. I loved athletics and running and kind of, that sort of stuff at school. But I think if I could have been an athlete and a sports person, I would have been a footballer. I think for me, although I like speed, I don't think I've got the minerals. When I get anywhere near high speed on my motorbike, I get a bit nervous. So when I think about like they do 200 miles an hour on those GP bikes, don't they? Elbow and like knee to the ground and that. They're another level. I actually met a guy called Gary Johnson on this. I went on a Triumph experience in Portugal where we got to try out the new bikes. And Gary Johnson, I think, is a Isle of Man TT rider, and like they're mad. They're just like the things they do riding around those roads. Their elbows are touching brick walls as they go around. Like I think they're another level. So I think I think to be at that level, you've got to be racing from a very young age and completely fearless as well.
Oh, the TT riders take it to a totally new level. Yeah, Isle of Man. Every year I look at it and I'm terrified, absolutely fascinated by the mindset of people who, and in fairness, it happens with drivers and riders as well. They get on a bike knowing that they've got a chance of not getting off it at the other end. And that is a very different mentality.
That episode, Man on Fire episode on the Drive to Survive, I was just like, because I'd seen little clips on Twitter, but when I realised the actual duration that he was in there, when that flames are going off, I thought, thank the Lord for that, the design of that car and also the suits and the helmets they're wearing, because like that would have been so hard to watch. The fact that he got out and walked out of that was mind blowing, wasn't it? Have you been at races where things like have happened, like, and you've seen it with your own eyes?
Yeah, and it's terrifying. And it's one of the aspects. I remember when I first started doing my job as a pit lane reporter, someone said to me, don't ever make friends with riders and drivers. And at the time, I was kind of quite blasé about it. But actually, along the way, when you lose those drivers and riders because they've had big accidents, when you're the one that's having to tell kind of the nation that someone's just died on a racetrack doing what they love, but still something that people think is quite, you don't have to do it, do you? You're choosing that option. It's something that, being friends with riders and drivers is not advisable because it can hurt.
I can imagine, yeah, because you have they're there for a few years. You really get to know each rider, don't you? So and driver, it must be really difficult. Is your passion in four wheels or two wheels? What do you love the most?
I can't. It's like picking which your favourite child is, Joe. You can't do it. I love both of them. I'm a speed freak, so anything that goes fast is good by me. But it's about the stories. It's about the people behind it. As you said, you look at the teams, the organisation that goes into it. There are so many people that are fascinating within the world of motorsport and sport in general, because everybody's taken a slightly different path to get there. And in a team like a MotoGP team, it's quite small, the amount of people that are building these prototype bikes that are, really pushing technology when it comes to riding so that, you can get your custom made bike at home with all these developments that actually have its heritage and its rooting in MotoGP. They're always pushing the boundaries. And I think the people in it are what fascinate me personally. I just love all their stories.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it the most. Not just the drivers obviously have certain personalities, but what do they call them? The people that manage the team. There's a name for them, isn't there?
Well, you've got your team principal.
Team principal, yeah. The team. I really like the team principal because they're so determined, so ambitious, and you can see that they're like arguing and they're trying to poach each other's drivers, and there's like trying to raise money for the team. It's a proper it's a real strategic thing, isn't it? And you sort of think, like when you watch cycling, it's very much about the peloton. It's such a strategic thing. You're a team. And I think if you just watch Formula 1, you think it's just down to Lewis, right? But actually, no, it's all the people that change the tyres. It's the engineers and all the data analysis that's going on during that race. It's a proper team event, isn't it?
It really is. And some of them, especially this season, it's like watching a game of chess unfold. They're so kind of into their own game, but trying to work out the strategy of somebody else. So it's not just right, put your foot down and go as fast as you can. You're always thinking, same with MotoGP, you're always got to be thinking, okay, what are they doing? How's this going to affect me? And some of the battles that we've seen have been incredible. Just to think in MotoGP, we could get to Silverstone at the end of August and not know who's going to win the championship still. That's what it's about, isn't it? Sport and getting into it is about being right on the edge of your seat and being fascinated and drawn in.
So is it not like in football, like there's just a team that dominates like every year? It's like Real Madrid or it's Man City or whatever. Like is it jumping quite a lot? I mean, I know Lewis Hamilton's won. Is it 8 titles he's won?
7 at the moment. He's going for his 8th this year. He's almost done it already, maybe.
Yeah, which is incredible. I mean, you've got to hand it to him. Like that's amazing, isn't it? That he's going to level with Michael Schumacher, and I think that's incredible. I think he's achieved an amazing thing in that sport. And I was just going to say, yeah. So what you're saying is 1 year it could be Lewis, the next year like it jumps between. And I always think, is it down to the driver or is it the car and the engineering that's changed and got that advantage that year? Why is it so different each year?
It does vary, but you get these areas of dominance, and then they change the rules. So next year, for example, in Formula 1, there's this massive rule change, which means a lot of the teams are already working on next year's car. And this year's car is kind of like an add-on because they know that so much can change next year. They've got budget caps coming in. So all of a sudden, we've seen Mercedes dominate for so many years. Since 2014, they've won every championship. But all of a sudden, next year, the tables could turn and it could be your McLaren team that are suddenly top of the championship. So a lot of it is all about the rules and which team can get the jump on everybody else.
Well, you asked me previously about did I have a favourite team or driver, and I think because I met Lando and I thought he was a really lovely guy. He was 19, and I just thought, mate, I was just really proud that like someone British is riding at such an age. So I would love to see, if Lewis does move on eventually, I'd love to see Lando come through and be the champion. I think at some point. Do you think he's got it in him? Has he got the talent?
I think so, in fairness. He's doing a cracking job. He's just signed a new contract with McLaren, so he and Daniel Ricciardo are going to stay there. for a long time, I think, next 3 years potentially. So McLaren have really found some stability, and Lando, George Russell as well at Williams. We got two really, really talented young guys coming through. So for the sport, for F1, that's a major bonus, isn't it? What were you doing when you were 19? Because I'm just thinking Lando, you met Lando at 19 and he's racing a Formula One car.
That's what I was amazed at, and the fact that he's like responsible for like a £200 million a year team, whatever. Like, it's overwhelming, isn't it? But when I was 19, I was laying on a beach in Koh Phangan in Thailand, drinking a bucket of Samsung and Red Bull. Like, I was just getting boozy because I just was traveling the world having fun. Yeah, I certainly wasn't racing cars, and even I didn't have any responsibility. I just was carefree, running away from reality. But yeah, I think he's a really lovely guy, and I'd love to see him progress and learn and improve. And Daniel Ricciardo would be a great teammate because him and Carlos used to they were jokers. You could see they were like mates, like brothers almost getting on. So I hope that Lando and Daniel are sort of having the same relationship and they're not kind of enemies and battling against. That must be tough when you're in a team, like, and there's a bit of friction. So hopefully they're getting on well. I can imagine they are. They've got good personalities, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got good banter. And I remember when Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo were racing for Yamaha in MotoGP, and they actually built a wall down the middle of the garage because they just couldn't get on at all. So it can get quite ugly, especially within MotoGP, where it's a much smaller paddock. Your bike takes a tiny little bit of space compared to a big Formula One car. So I think it does get personal when it comes to those relationships. And that's a whole nother element of it. You must love that bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I sound like I made a funny message on Instagram. I said, I've just watched Formula One Drive to Survive, and I think I'm an expert. I'm like, because I was looking at I literally went back at like old charts and old tables and who won that year and what happened then. And I feel like I'm an expert from watching 10 episodes of a Netflix show. But I'm well into. Honestly, I'm hooked. I can't wait for the next season of that to come out. And my friends kept saying, give it a go. It's the best thing on Netflix. And I was like, nah, I'm not that into it. But honestly, if I get a chance, I'm going to go to an event. I'd love to go to Monaco. I mean, that looks like a pretty cool track. I've been out there once, but yeah, it's just, that's my new thing, I think, watching it. When's the next GP race? I'll get involved on that.
Well, you've got Silverstone at the end of August. So that's the one I think you should focus on. That's the one you should go to and get pumped up by meeting the guys. And I tell you what, the weirdest thing is, when you're getting into a sport, when you're into bikes, actually being able to touch or get on a MotoGP bike or touch an F1 car blows your mind. I don't. Maybe it's just me.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the thing. I haven't been that kind of into it, but now I love my bikes and I look at Ducati website all the time. I'm obsessed. I've obviously got the Street Fighter, but I'm always looking at the Panigale, thinking, oh, do I need that one? Should I get that one? Because I feel like I'm going to be a collector. Let's be honest. I've got a double garage and I've got the room, so I'm probably going to end up with a couple more. But look, I'm around the end of August. If you want to hook me up, I'll see you there in Silverstone.
Yeah, we'll get you sorted with a track day. We'll get you sorted going to the GP, and you can come along to Formula One as well, because standing on a grid when it's a British sport as well, because Silverstone is the home of, British motorsport now, you don't get a better feeling. And, you're rubbing shoulders with all these amazing celebs and other people are there. But actually, the stars of the show are these gladiators who go out and wrestle their bikes or drive their cars at stupid, crazy speeds. And, it's mind-blowing to be there and be part of it.
That would be the dream. If you can get me on the track day to actually experience the track, even if I'm plodding along on a moped, I'd just love to see, the route and how they get around those bends and stuff. But that'd be great. And then also, if I could stand on the actual come into the pit and meet some of the riders, that'd be incredible. I imagine they're probably super focused, but maybe on the qualifying day. One other thing I was going to say was, is it true that a Formula One driver's heart rate gets up to almost 200 beats per minute when they're literally waiting on the grid to start the race?
Some of them do. They get really high heartbeats at the beginning. It's one of the things they won't let us monitor. We've tried. We want to get that information.
The adrenaline kick, apparently the adrenaline, because I mean, when I exercise, if I'm doing a hit, my heart rate maybe go 185, like I'm really, really going for it. But to get your heart rate sitting in a car seat, that means your adrenaline, your heart and your brain just like fired up like the adrenaline. So yeah, that'd be mad if they really get to that. No wonder they're exhausted. I'd want a nap after that.
And they lose so much body fluid as well, Joe, when they're actually racing. Singapore is the most demanding for that. Used to be Malaysia, but now it's Singapore because they don't do Malaysia anymore. But yeah, they lose It's up to 5 kg of fluid. I mean, it's a crazy number. They have to rehydrate straight after.
So is that because, like, and I understand obviously like the humidity of just being in Singapore is so hot, and they're in these suits. But is it also, is it physical in terms of the steering and actually the body getting swished side to side? Is that taking a lot of tension and muscular like strength to sort of stay in that position, sort of thing?
I think for the guys on bikes, it's crazy because obviously they're throwing that bike around. They're going the G's as well, but they're moving their body as one with the bike. So that takes all sorts of muscle groups and core muscles to be able to do that. With the cars, you'll see it for yourself, they are crammed into their seat. They can hardly move. So there's not any kind of real movement that they're enduring actual side to side. But it's the G-force, as you say, when they're going around corners, when they're braking, they're kind of having to tense their bodies a lot. We'll have to introduce you to them so you can find out what it's really like to be in those cars, because you'll never get the chance to do it. I mean, you can sit in a 2-seater. Now that is a good experience. We should definitely get you in a 2-seater. You'd love it.
Yeah, I bet that's intense.
Yeah, so you can do the 2-seater Formula One car, and you can do the 2-seater bikes as well. And I'll never forget the time they put me on the back of a BSB bike. We're not even talking MotoGP. Back of the BSB bike, I've got my arms around Tommy Hills. I'm holding on to like this little butterfly clip that's over the top of where you put your fuel in on the fuel tank. And he just floors it, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa!
Oh my God, what, a 2-seater Formula One car?
British Superbike. So it's like 2 steps down. MotoGP is the most powerful bike you'll get. And then 2 steps down is British Superbikes. But they're awesome. You'd love them.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Yeah, no, I'd give that a go. But I mean, I've done one track day at, I went to Goodwood. You know Goodwood. I did a little Goodwood. I did a mini day. Like I went around on a Mini Cooper. It was a Mini Cooper Works. Now I thought I was like a Formula One rider going around in that. I loved it so much. So I've definitely got the genes. I've definitely got the desire to drive fast if I've got a good instructor. So I'd love to go and have a little blast on a. Can you do any like like the Indy 500, those sort of smaller Formula One cars? Can you do that anywhere in the UK?
Oh yeah, you can do that at Silverstone as well. They're great. You go on the national track in a little Formula 4 and it blows your mind. They've got everything there. They really have. We'll kit you out. We'll link you up with Silverstone.
I've got a feeling me and you are going to become good friends, Jenny. And what motorbike do you ride?
Oh, I don't ride anymore. Now I'm a mummy. I thought it was a bad idea to combine the two things. I haven't got time anyway. But any time I get to do a track day, I'm just loving it. But I'm probably, when I go out, I'm more on 4 than 2 now. I've got to be honest.
What is your dream car? And do you have your dream car?
No, I don't even nearly have my dream car. I have a mum car. Which is very different. I had a Mercedes, like a little SLK. And I got rid of it the day I went into labour. So that was quite lucky that I made the switch to a mum car after that. I mean, there are so many beautiful cars in the world. Aston Martin, a Vanquish would be amazing, an Audi R8. The list goes on and on. What's yours?
My dream car would be, I think a McLaren. I reckon, like a McLaren, a P1, or the Senna is pretty amazing. So I love looking at YouTubers. I follow a lot of YouTubers and all these car collectors with like savage car collections. I love it, and that Supercar Blondie and all that. Just constantly showing these amazing cars. But I'm yet to kind of commit and invest and buy a car. I've got a Mini Cooper S, a John Cooper Works, which I love. I've had a Mini for like 10 years, and I just don't get the same buzz. Like if I get in a car, like it's just a car. But with the motorbikes, I'm constantly thinking, oh, well, I've got that. Why don't I get the Thruxton RS now? Or why don't I get a Panigale? Because they all feel different. You're really connected to that bike. So I would personally rather have 10 motorbikes than like one Ferrari or one McLaren. So that's probably the direction I'm going to go down.
Wait until you've got one McLaren and then you'll be like, oh, maybe I'll just go for a little vintage cheeky Ferrari. And then, oh, it's a bug, Joe. And now you've got bitten by it well and truly. You've got your garage full of bikes. You're going to have to buy another house just to have another garage full of bikes. Life is very different, isn't it, for you now from where you started? I just want to finish up by, you've been on this incredible journey. Obviously, there's still so much more you want to do and achieve. What is the future for you? What do you see it as?
Well, my proudest achievement, in my career to date has to be Prix with Joe. And, being there when people needed me, like everyone was locked in. It was an emotional time. And I'm so proud that I was there to kind of lift the nation's spirits and get them through that difficult time through those workouts. So really my mission and passion is to continue that, like continue to engage young people in fitness, I think adults have got my books and my Instagram and they've got my kind of YouTube videos, but I really want to tap into the schools and children and keep building that message around exercise and mental health. It's not just about body image anymore. Like we've transcended that now. You know, we need to be staying physically and mentally healthy and happy. And I think exercise is such a great way to transfer that message to people. So yeah, that's the mission. Keep going until I got a belly and I'm bald and I'm still doing workouts and I'm still trying to inspire everyone, but I've still got a lot of energy left.
Good stuff, Joe. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we could talk all year about bikes and cars, but we'll just have to meet up at Silverstone. I'll show you around if I can, and we'll give you a real experience of what it's like to be at a MotoGP race.
I'd absolutely love that. Well, listen, thanks for having me on your podcast, and I really look forward to meeting you in person. So hopefully see you in Silverstone in August.